moving on obviously to the title you're most famous for, Head Over Heels, and the sort of the isometric gears where you're developing several games in the same style. Were there any sort of special techniques or utilities you devised for working with that style?
I had a kind of text editor that I wrote on an old CPN business machine that meant I could just add rooms. It took very little detail to write in a few rooms, a few coordinates, a number indicating what item I wanted where. And there was a whole structure within the game that nested structures, so you could kind of put two bricks together and call that a single unit, and then you could put three of those together and call that a single unit. So it became very simple to go, I want a whole bridge of blocks, and you had one number done. And so it's quite fast, I could put together a new location in 20 seconds or something. It was quick.
And how much testing then did it take to get the rooms working properly?
Some rooms very simple, and I would just test them myself. Others I'd give them to people who preferably weren't very good at games. My girlfriend at the time used to fit that mould fairly well, and I'd just watch what she did and just think, okay, she's just not getting it. Because sometimes it's quite hard to tell where things are. Because there's no shadows to give you that clue, you can't tell. And I could see when she wasn't seeing, and I'd just write it down and I'd go and change it all around, turn the room. And sometimes rooms were just too complex. I would do things like have a thought problem in the same room as a physical problem. So it might be a difficult jump, plus you have to think about what you're doing, and that never worked because people would think they had a solution, they'd try it once, but fail because it was a physical problem. So at that point you had to separate them the two things into separate rooms really, so that you only had one at a time, because they'd give up.
Yeah. I think one of the most striking things about Head Over Heels is the unusual enemies. So where did the Daleks with Prince Charles's head and the strawberry? It's just burning.
I wouldn't direct him at all. I'd simply say, for everything within the game, I'd simply say, I want a moving thing, I want a block this size, I want a prize. I'd simply say that to him, and he would then bring loads of stuff round, and I'd reject maybe 2/3 of it. And that would just be dropped, and then I'd just use the stuff I thought was best. But it was, we didn't worry about consistency or sizes or scale or anything like that. And it just made it all that much more weirder. Really.
So presumably the different themes of the world's evolved in the same way. You did draw something, and then you think, we do a world with that as a base.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. He has a vivid imagination, to say the very least.
And when you were working with him, did you give him specific sizes, or did you just try and fit in everything he drew?
No, I would give him sizes. They were absolute solid. Whatever came up was we called the power-ups bat pills, I think, and they complained Batman doesn't take drugs. So we had to call them powers. That was just a word in the documentation, nothing in the game. They didn't direct it at all. I came up with the idea of using the Batman character, dismissed it, thinking, everybody's forgotten Batman at that time, and Bernie said, no, it's re-showing on Channel 4, all the kids are watching it. So at that point we went to Ocean, and I can remember David Ward running around his office, singing the theme tune, which was amusing. And then they went off and got the licence. Didn't seem to be any problem for them at the time. I suppose it was a kind of dead thing. Nobody valued it.
And so also another thing that's come up in interviews before about Batman is that you're trying to make a two-player game from the start.
Not that I know of. No, we used to talk about having Robin in the game, but we never put him in. We never intended to. It's just a wind-up, really.
Then obviously, was it always the plan to have the sort of the cooperative element in Head Over Heels? Was it always?
No. The way it happened was I came up with what I wanted Batman to do, so jump, etc. And I just thought it'd be quite good to take all those powers away and make you earn them. So at the beginning of the game, you collect the individual items that enable to do things like jumping, and that Head Over Heels was just a continuation of that. So I didn't think it was anything clever at the time. I just thought it's by splitting them up, you get different powers when you put them together. So again, it's something to be earned. So that was purely the motivation behind it.
Sam worked with Ocean on a couple of titles. He then moved on to Rare. What was it like working for Rare?
Well, I was pretty independent. I initially started working on arcade machines, but discovered I wasn't very good at arcade games. They require a totally different concept of how you approach them. The arcade games, put 10p in, it's got to grab you straight away, otherwise you won't put any more money in. And my games were about learning, and learning was what I thought was fun, to learn how to play, and that took a long time, and it was never going to suit an arcade game. It took me a while to find that out, but yeah, I found it out in the end. They were great to work with. I got on very well with Chris Stamper, and I can't tell you how many calls we'd have at 3 o'clock in the morning, going, why isn't this working, what's going on here? Lots of calls. We were both night owls.
And what happened to the games you were working on for Rare?
Well, the only game that came out was Monster Max. Great critical acclaim, crap sales. Maybe the year's gap between the acclaim and the sale and the going on sale made a difference there. Yeah, it was marketed extraordinarily poorly. It's just unfortunate.
Yeah, so you moved on again and decided it was time to start your own company.
Yeah, it was a meeting. It goes back a bit. When I did Match Day 2, Mirrorsoft approached me. They wanted to get Match Day 2 basically, and they offered me quite a lot of money. So I went back to Ocean and said, I've been offered more money. And Ocean said, okay, we'll match it. But the guy who made me the offer, many years later, I said, I really owe you at least a drink, if not a bit more for that. And so we went out for a beer or 10. And I think on the way, very drunken ride back home, we decided to set up Grambit together. So that's how the decision was made, really, just out of the blue.
And obviously then, as you mentioned earlier, Match Day 3, which became Super Match Soccer, was one of the projects there.
Yep.
How do you think that compared to the other football games that were then emerging?
Well, it was hugely different. We couldn't afford the level of detail in artwork and motion capture that FIFA could afford. They were spending a fortune. But what we could do was create a different sort of game that didn't have pass buttons and shoot buttons. Instead it had kick buttons, and if you wanted to pass, you kicked it in the direction of a player. Equally, you could kick it into space. That meant you could have a very different sort of game. Didn't go down well critically. I actually think it plays really well still. Has some great games, I think, but I watched journalists play it, and basically they play it for 5 minutes and stop, because their idea of a football game was to be able to go past, to score an overhead kick in the first 5 minutes. You know, that wasn't going to happen with Match Day 3. You were going to have to learn. Again, that's what I do. I do games where you have to learn.
And what do you think of sort of the current generation of football games?
I haven't played any. I really haven't. None at all.
And obviously another of the Cranberry Sauce titles was QAD, Quintessential Art of Destruction. Perhaps you could tell us a bit about that.
Well, it was a strange thing. We acquired a bit of software. So a young man approached me, and he had this really beautiful bit of software, fantastic at portraying landscapes, and we bought the software off him and employed him, and then it all just sort of fell apart. He got really angry at us and went away, and we were faced with a deal to sell the game. Sold the game. and we couldn't develop his bit of software